Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm really pleased to introduce you to Megan Lamont of Vertigro Property Management. And today she is going to share with us some insights into the significant changes that are happening in the residential rental property market that both property owners and tenants really need to learn about. So we've only got a short space of time, so she's just going to touch on them, but I'll put her details up at the end of this chat. So if you have any questions, Megan would love to be able to help you, so please feel free to call her. So Megan, before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Vertigro?
Yeah, thanks, Kayleen. Well, I have been in property management for 20 years. I started when my youngest child was born and went to work for someone part-time that had a property management business. And then from there, that sort of grew. They ended up closing down and I ended up just going out and doing that. So I've dabbled in it, raised 3 children, and they're all now young adults, which I'm trying to get to leave the house. But while they're still home, that's okay, we're enjoying them. And so we've moved from one side of Auckland to the other. We now reside in Red Beach, and the Hibiscus Coast has been our home for nearly 10 years, and we really love it here. And we also have our own investment properties, and something I've always really enjoyed. I enjoy property and I really enjoy people. And this business is very much about people as it's also about property. So great loves that join together, and yeah, we really enjoy serving both our owners and also looking after tenants and finding maybe the property for people that are looking for a property, helping maybe match that up. It's a very tough market currently, so if we've got a great tenant that needs to move, we can do our best to keep an ear out for other things. So that's, yeah, we really enjoy working in that area.
Yeah, so Megan and I have known each other for about a couple of years, and I know she's passionate about what she does, and I know she really looks after her clients. We've done a little bit of work for her, Ripple has done a little bit of work for her, so I'm delighted to be able to have the opportunity to highly recommend her to property owners and tenants, so please reach out. So we'll get started, Megan.
Yes.
So my first question, which is tough, I know, but can you give us an insight into what these changes are and what they're trying to achieve by these changes?
Yeah, thanks, Kayleen. And it will be. So I'll just give you a real snapshot, because there's been over 100 amendments to the Residential Tenancies Act, the biggest changes since the Act came in 1986. So they're significant. And obviously we won't go through them now because, you know, who's going to be listening? So the highlights, though, probably are the notice periods. So we've had a lot of media about the notice periods and what this will mean for landlords specifically, and that is that periodic tenancies will no longer be able to be terminated by a landlord without giving a reason, and that's really important. Up until now, they've been able to give a 90-day notice for no reason, and the law, they believe that needs to be changed, and they've changed it. So periodic tenancies, landlords have to give 90 days notice in these situations, and that is that they've got an unconditional sale, that they have an intention to sell after the tenants vacate, so they want to empty to then put on the market, that they're doing some development on the site or extensive renovations. Now, none of these have been tested in tribunal, but the chatter in the market is that extensive renovations wouldn't consider changing the carpet or painting extensive. It would have to be a remodel of the kitchen or the bathroom. But again, that's just chatter at the moment, because this is new law. So then, if a landlord member wants to move into the property, currently it's 42 days. Under the new law, it will be 63 days notice. Now, a little trick that's going to be a bit of a thing is that if a property is owned by a trust, then a trust can't give notice for a family member moving in. So that's something to consider for landlords with that, when they're looking, maybe reviewing their trust, and look, get specialist advice about that. But just know that you can't give notice for a family member moving in if it's owned by a trust. The tribunal reading on that is that a trust can't have babies. So and a lot of New Zealanders own their property in trust. So just a little trick for that. Fixed term tenancies ends up on the 12th of February for a fixed term for 1 year. At the end of that 1 year, you cannot, as a landlord, if they don't want to sign up again, you will not be able to say then we'll end the tenancy. And that's a really big change for fixed terms tenancies. A tenant can choose to stay on in a periodic tenancy. Of course, if a tenant and a landlord agree and say, yep, we both want another year, totally can do it, because that brings, for a lot of tenants, comfort to know that they're not going to be asked to be moved, and also it gives landlords that comfort to know that a tenant's going to be committed for that period. Of course, there's ins and outs with that, but that is a big change. You can't ask them to leave. However, there's lots of change. If a fixed term tenancy was signed up last year, it will stay under the old, what we'll call after the 11th of February, the old law. So we're going to be straddling two laws with tenancies, and that is going to be confusing. We just know that it's going to be. So we're trying to educate our landlords to say, look, there's going to be two laws at play here, because what you're maybe hearing in the media might not be applicable to your tenancy. So our job is to educate landlords and to, assist with that and assist communication with tenants so that they know what the expectation is, because a lot of tenants may feel that they won't have to leave a fixed term tenancy if they signed up last year, whereas they're under the old law, and yes, they are still under that, so not under the new. So happy to answer any questions around that to give clarity when people come to that. And then there is tenants' notice periods are changing. So it's moving from 21 days to 28 days. So 1 more week. If you want to leave your tenancy, a periodic tenancy, you'll need to give 28 days notice from the 11th of Feb. So that's a change from that. Of course, you can still terminate a tenancy if there are rent arrears or antisocial behaviour. So there are other aspects to take in. If something went badly wrong in a tenancy, then there are avenues to end the tenancy. So don't freak out. There are ways if the worst were to happen, which is there's that capacity there. And also for tenants, that they have increased rights for if there's abuse or that sort of thing. There is a change in law for that to assist for a tenant to be able to leave a tenancy, and that takes effect from August this year. So again, a few sort of dates change. Tenants will be able to have probably clearer rights about being able to install broadband or fibre, so that gives them quicker access. Owner won't be able to resist that, basically. They need to get approval, but an owner won't be able to say no without having a very good reason why. And that is the same with minor alterations. Currently, some tenancies, and we say it too, actually, that you can't put things on the walls until you've had a conversation, and that's still true, but a landlord won't be able to deny it, won't be able to say no going forward. They'll be able to say that, yes, if you've got a bookcase that you want to affix to the wall because you're worried it might fall down with young children, then that is a landlord really won't be able to say no to that, because for the health and safety of the children or the family, that will be allowed to be done. But it does mean that a tenant will have to put that back to right. Yeah. So and that's going to take some conversations. They are important conversations, because what your right is and what my right is, the paint job could be vastly different. And, so that's going to be something that's just going to need clarity around how you frame it, how you discuss it, how clear it is in writing, what the expectations will be. Really can't be doing a yes, she'll be right, unless you're happy for she'll be right, because you'll probably end up with a she'll be right kind of job. So really important to have those good conversations. So there are more penalties, both for landlords and tenants, mostly for landlords, and the damages have significantly increased to a maximum of 7,000, just over 7,000 for some things. So really important with the legislation change to make sure you're ticking the boxes correctly with your tenancy agreements, with your healthy homes. You know, there's a lot of things coming in that maybe even 5 years ago we didn't even think about. So a lot more changes to make sure you are doing things the right way. Very important. So,
absolutely. And it's not just the penalties that landlords need to think about. It's the time that can be taken up with mediations. And all the conversations prior to that. And I suspect that if they're looking after their own properties, they need to be mindful that this is not an emotional conversation that they should be happening. This is a very practical conversation, and be assured that they are following the legislation to the rules. So that you don't want to turn this into a volatile situation with your tenant if it can be avoided. So tell me, Megan, what was the overarching reason for these changes? What did we feel that tenants didn't have enough rights, or what was that?
Well, I think they really want to, I guess the general feeling is that tenants didn't have enough rights or didn't have enough security of tenure in their property, so that they didn't have, you know, tenants are renting generally for longer. So maybe when the law came about, really it came back in the 86, in the 70s and 80s, a lot of people would, you know, start life and then go buy a house that was affordable, they could do it. But this day and age, you know, the cost of housing is significant to get a purchase, and it may not be where you want to work. So people might be able to buy in a smaller town than, say, you know, we're working out of Auckland. So even for me to think, for my young adults, how are they going to get a house? You know, it's unlikely. But if you and so what they're saying is a lot more people are tenanting for longer, and they want to make sure that they can feel like this is their home. And I think that's the driving factor, really, is giving security to families so that they can just feel like I'm putting my child into school here, you know, we're making our life here, and I think that's their hope, that these laws will allow that to feel more secure.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Megan. So we'll move along to our next question. So this is 2 points here. So can you identify 1 point for the rental property owner and 1 point for the tenant that may surprise them in this new legislation?
Yeah, I think I probably did touch on it a little bit, and I think that the straddling the two laws is going to take a lot by surprise. There's been a lot of chatter about the 90-day notice, but and that fact that a landlord won't be able to give that. So that's been in the paper a lot, you know, very landlords, you know, saying this isn't fair and that sort of thing. But what people haven't probably realised is the fact that especially with the fixed term tenancies, they are going to come under the old law. So there is going to be conversations needing to have around that. So that's important to recognise that that's a change. And the other point is that probably, you know, that sort of landlords are going to be worried that a bedroom is going to be painted purple and they can't do anything about it. But that's, you know, like, it's going to need a conversation. So if a tenant says, hey, I want to paint this wall, bright blue, and the owner's like, oh, I don't really want that, but hey, let's have a discussion about it. But maybe putting up frames for, we'd like to put this picture on the wall, then go for it, because tenants, it's their home, you know, and that's what I say often to landlords, is that it's a house primarily for you, it's an investment, it's something you've bought for your future, or maybe you've moved out of town, or lots of different reasons that people become landlords. There's more than, you know, the top three. There's lots of reasons that we have landlords, but for tenants, they're living in it, it's their home. And so to be able to put up a picture on the wall, you know, that's important to make a home. So I think we can navigate these well, but it needs to be navigated, you know, with good communication and clarity.
And a point for the tenants, was there anything significant there, or that might shock a tenant?
Probably not.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think probably, I think they probably won't be taken by surprise. They'll probably will embrace a number of these to allow them to go, great, okay, this fixed term tenancy I'm signing up for, I'm happy to commit for a year, but I'm not sure after the year what's going to happen. We could have a job transfer, and then, you know, so things could change, or our kids' schooling might change, and so we might want to have the freedom to move without being locked in. So if you make a fixed term under the new law, you will need to commit in the same way for that fixed term period, but it does mean that then they might not feel like they are forced to sign up for another 12 months. So I think there will be a lot of tenants that will be pleased to not have to feel like, now I'm going to have to move at the end of a fixed term period, but we will have a little bit more ease of making choices and not being so necessarily committed. So
I think it's great that tenants may get a sense of being able to make their rental home an actual home now as well, because I know when I was growing up, there's probably a stigma attached to being a tenant rather than a property owner. It was like, oh yeah, you may not have made the best choices in life or something like that, but that's gone now. There's a whole host of reasons for somebody to become a landlord. There's a whole host of reasons for a tenant to be a tenant, and it's not necessarily because they've made some bad choices or bad investment. There's a whole host. So everybody wants to live in, everybody I know wants to live in a home. So I think that's good if that's what we're working towards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Great. So Megan, I've heard you say on occasion that if you are a rental property owner, it is a business, so it should be treated like a business. And I know as a property owner, I would certainly outsource the property management to a professional such as yourself, because I just feel there's too many areas. I run a business already. I don't actually have the personal time to run another one. And there's too much to know. You know, to learn another 100 rules and the intricacies of those and to treat my tenant fairly, I just don't feel I would have the personal resources for it. So there are some people that love to manage their properties, but for those who are managing it and not sure whether they want to continue doing that, especially with the new legislation, or use somebody like yourself, what are your thoughts on that? What insights can you give them?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the changing reform, the healthy homes, which we haven't even touched on, but that's another whole subject. So that comes into action on the 1st of July, and we are working with owners to make sure that to assist them with meeting those requirements for a healthy home. It's you know, there's legislation, it's not bad, and I think it's probably been painted as somewhat like terrible that it's coming, but it's great. It's good that we're moving forward and then we're changing legislation to meet the requirement of our communities that are changing, like you said. It's so it's a positive thing in my mind, but it's just about navigating it well, having understanding. And you know, we're doing training almost every week on it so that we're up to speed. And like you say, most people are working and families and businesses. They don't have time to go, what do I need to be doing? You know, putting in a new tenant is a time-consuming job. You want to make sure you do that very, very well, that you've followed things, protocol. Like with the new reform, you won't be able to advertise a property for rent, you know, with a sign on the side of the road without the amount on it. That's going to become, you're going to be able to be fined by that. And so really important small things. Again, I didn't mention it in the previous question because there's lots of little things that are going to pop up. So and of course, you know, it's my business, so I'd say, why wouldn't you use a professional? You know, because this, in my mind, the small sum they pay for that peace of mind to go, oh, great, the Vertigro team are handling it. They're onto it. You know, that we get the information, we get the regular inspection reports, we know what's happening, we know what maybe we need to do for healthy homes, or, you know, quotes are coming in, we can review them, we can make decisions. But in actual fact, I don't have to remember to check, did I check that the rent had been paid, because I can probably say that the majority of owners don't check the rent every week, and we're checking it daily. And of course, most tenants are fine, but sometimes something happens, and you know, the bank, something happens and it bounces back. We've all had that experience. Just the strangest things can happen sometimes, and so really important for both parties, because no tenant wants to be told 4 months later, hey, that rent didn't come in, and they're like, what? You know, it goes out every week. So you know, just why not? Why wouldn't you use it? You know, have a conversation, and it's tax deductible, you know, so you can get it back. So, you know, peace of mind in this day when you're juggling a lot of balls, I would say, it's such a peace of mind.
Absolutely. I know, with my recruiting hat on, the conversation is the same, because like you, we do this is our job. It's our sole focus. So we're doing it all the time, and we're upskilling all the time. So we're on top of things, and we know the little intricacies and the blips and things that can trip you up. So rather than a property owner discover it for themselves, or a business owner discover they've made a terrible bad hire, take that pain out of it. It is a really insignificant amount of money that they're paying compared to the pain that could be caused by a bad decision. So I hear you
completely. And I think you know, like with the team, I've got Monique and History who are in the team with Vertigro. We've all passed the New Zealand property management level 3, 5 or something, you know, the New Zealand skills there's only one thing, so I should know it off the top of my head, but we've passed that. If we become regulated, we'd be first cab off the rank, so to speak, to be regulated, because we want to be doing things really well, and that's important going forward. There are a lot of property management firms in the market, and so if you've got an asset that's worth, like in Auckland, most of them are worth up to, you know, the average is what, 1.2 million or something now. So a significant asset. You know, who do you want looking after it, and looking after it well, and looking after, you know, at the same time, for us, we build a great relationship with tenants. It's professional, it's clear, we respect them. It's, you know, we really want to respect our tenants because they're living in that, we're coming into their home, so we want to create this relationship, which basically means the property has been looked after really well, people enjoy living in it, you know, because that then brings the return. It's this, you know, the merry-go-round. We want that to be going around well for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And you touched on a point there. Not all property managers, like not all recruiters, are the same. So don't penny pinch. It doesn't mean that quality is, you know, equal to your financial investment, but don't penny pinch on these things. Make sure that you've got the right person. Speak to other people. Get their referrals, and as I said, I'm very happy to refer you and be held accountable for that. So it's an important decision to make. So Megan, I just really want to thank you for your time. I think you did brilliantly squeezing all that but Megan from Vertigro Property Management, her details will be at the end of this chat. She'll be very happy to take any calls from you, so do reach out. So thank you again, Megan. Okay, thank you everybody for watching. Bye for now, and stay safe.
Thanks. See you.